When you reach old age, you come into a season of reflection, wisdom, and often vulnerability. It's a time when you should be surrounded by love, peace, and those who respect your years of sacrifice. But sadly, it's also a time when certain people will try to take advantage of you. You may not move as fast as you used to. You may depend on others more than before. And it's in that space of dependence where the manipulator thrives. You must be discerning, because not everyone who smiles in your face has your best interest at heart. There are people, sometimes even close relatives, who are skilled at playing emotional games. They make you feel guilty for saying no. They twist your kindness into obligation. They act like they love you, but only as long as you're useful to them. These manipulators are dangerous, not just because of what they do, but because of what they cost you: your peace, your rest, your dignity. The manipulator doesn't always come in loud and aggressive. Often they come soft. They know just what to say to make you doubt yourself. They may act like they're helping you, but behind that help is a hidden agenda. It might be your house, your savings, your social security check, or maybe just your attention, your time, your energy. Because some people feed off control, and the older you get, the more you need to walk in wisdom. Proverbs 14:15 says, The simple believe every word, but the prudent man looketh well to his going. In other words, don't take everyone at face value. Test their spirit. Watch their patterns. Pay attention to what they do when you say no. If someone gets angry every time you set a boundary, it's because they were never there for the right reason in the first place. Some of you have been manipulated for years and didn't even realize it. You thought you were being kind. You thought you were being Christ-like. But Christ never taught us to be doormats. He said to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Matthew 10:16. That means we must live with love, yes, but also with discernment. You can be generous without being gullible. You can help people without handing over your peace of mind. There's something particularly painful about being used in your older years. After all the years of raising children, paying bills, giving advice, serving others, you deserve honor, not exploitation. You deserve to be treated with dignity, not deceit. But here's the truth. Manipulators don't care how much you've done. They only care what they can still get from you. Some of you right now are being guilted into things you no longer have the strength to do. You're afraid to say no because you think that makes you selfish. But it's not selfish to protect your peace. It's not unloving to protect your boundaries. And it's not wrong to say, I've done enough. That's called wisdom. Don't let anyone use your age as an excuse to control you. Just because you're older doesn't mean you've lost your voice. In fact, now more than ever, you need to use it. Speak up, ask questions. Don't hand over your bank accounts, your home, or your decisions without prayer, wisdom, and trusted counsel. You may be in your 70s, 80s, or 90s, but you're still God's servant. And God never called his servants to be manipulated into silence. And to the manipulators out there, God sees you. You may fool a vulnerable parent, a tired grandparent, or a weary widow, but you will not fool God. The Bible says in Galatians 6:7, do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he also reap. If you sow manipulation, you will reap destruction. If you sow deception, you will reap regret. And if you dishonor the elderly, the Lord will hold you accountable. So I urge you, open your eyes. Pay attention to the people around you. Ask the Lord for discernment. Not everyone in your circle should be in your life. Some are only there to control you. And at this stage in your life, you don't have the time or energy to carry that burden anymore. Avoid the manipulator because your peace is not for sale. As you get older, something shifts deep within you. The rush of life slows down. You begin to value peace over noise, simplicity over chaos, and clarity over confusion. You start to cherish the quiet mornings, the phone calls that lift your spirit, and the people who bring light into your space. That's why in this season of life you must guard yourself from the complainer, the one who drains your joy. Some people are not just occasionally negative. No, they are professionally negative. They wake up complaining. They sit in silence and find something to be upset about. And they don't just bring their burden to you. They leave it with you. Before you know it, your spirit starts feeling heavy, not because of your own struggles, but because they've dumped all their bitterness onto your soul. Now listen, I'm not saying don't be there for people. God calls us to comfort the hurting. But there's a difference between helping someone in pain and tolerating someone who constantly poisons the atmosphere. A person who complains about everything will eventually cause you to question your own blessing. You were thankful for your life until they made you feel like it wasn't enough. You were content with your small home, your quiet days, your simple meals, until they started pointing out what you lack. They don't lift you up, they wear you down. Philippians 2:14 says do all things without murmurings and disputings. That's not just for children, that's for all of us. And in your old age you don't have the same emotional stamina to carry unnecessary negativity. You've earned the right to protect your peace. You've carried burdens for decades. You've wiped tears, worked hard, and stayed faithful. This is not the time in your life to sit under the dark cloud of someone else's constant complaining. What many don't realize is that complaining is contagious. It spreads. It enters a room and changes the atmosphere. It can take a beautiful day and make it feel like a burden. It can take a family gathering and turn it into a courtroom. And some of you have allowed these chronic complainers to sit at your table, in your living room, on the other end of that daily phone call, feeding your mind with doubt, irritation, and fear. And it's slowly robbing you of the joy you were meant to enjoy in this season of life. I've seen elderly people who were once full of life slowly become bitter, not because they were naturally negative, but because they surrounded themselves with those who refused to see the good in anything. I've watched families fall apart, not from violence or betrayal, but from one person constantly stirring discontent. It starts small, a complaint about the weather, the food, the noise. Then it grows, complaints about other family members, about church, about health, about life itself. And soon the house is no longer a place of peace. It becomes a place of tension. You need to be around people who speak life, people who still say thank you, people who still notice the beauty in the ordinary, the ones who look at a glass and say it's half full, not half empty. Because as your body slows down, your spirit needs fuel, and joy is fuel. Laughter is medicine. Gratitude is strength. But when you allow constant complaining into your space, it will take more from you than you realize. Now let me be clear, there's nothing wrong with being honest about hardship. We all face difficulty. But there's a difference between expressing a burden and embodying bitterness. When someone chooses to live in a constant state of discontent, they create an atmosphere where the presence of God becomes harder to sense. Because God inhabits the praises of His people, not the complaints. Some of you need to make a decision. You've been letting certain voices take up too much space in your life. You've kept answering that phone call, even though every time it ends you feel drained. You've sat through the same conversation over and over again, hearing the same complaints with no intention of change. And now you're the one who feels empty. It's okay to say, I love you, but I can't carry this anymore. It's okay to walk away from a conversation that steals your peace. And it's more than okay to protect your joy, because joy is not a luxury, it's a necessity, especially now. Avoid the complainer, because your joy is not their dumping ground. They're something sacred about family. As you grow older, you begin to realize just how precious unity really is. You stop chasing after crowds and applause, and you start praying for peace around your dinner table. You don't want chaos anymore. You want calm. You don't need drama. You need harmony. But there's one kind of person who works against that goal. And if you're not careful, they'll keep your home in a constant state of unrest. That's the divider, the one who stirs up strife within the family. This kind of person doesn't always show their true colors right away. They may even pretend to be a peacemaker. But watch closely and you'll see a pattern. Every time peace starts to take root, they uproot it with gossip. Every time people begin to come together, they plant seeds of suspicion. They can't help themselves. They thrive in conflict because conflict gives them attention. They feel important when others are at odds. They love to whisper, but they never bring resolution. They'll tell you what someone said about you, but they'll never tell you what you did that hurt them. They fuel division, then sit back and watch it burn. And listen, division isn't always loud. Sometimes it comes in quiet tones and subtle phrases. Did you hear what your sister said? I wouldn't trust them if I were you. They only come around when they want something. Just little sparks. But sparks turn into fires. And before you know it, the love that once held the family together starts to unravel. Romans 16:17 tells us plainly, Now I beseech you, brethren, mark them which cause divisions and offenses contrary to the doctrine which ye have learned, and avoid them. That's not a suggestion, that's a command. You have to mark them, identify them, and avoid them. Because peace doesn't come automatically, it must be protected. And when you've reached your later years, you no longer have time to entertain division. You need peace in your home. You need reconciliation, not rumors. You need unity, not silent grudges. Some of you have spent years caught in the middle. You've tried to be the bridge, tried to hold everyone together, but the divider always found a way to twist your words or misinterpret your motives. And now you're tired. Tired of the phone calls that turn into arguments. Tired of the family gatherings that end in silence. Tired of loving people who refuse to let go of past wounds. And in many cases there's one person driving it all. Someone who refuses to let healing happen because they enjoy having control through conflict. Let me tell you something, conflict is exhausting, but peace is healing. And God is not the author of confusion. He is the God of order, of love, of restoration. So if someone is constantly stirring up strife, they are not operating in the Spirit of God. I don't care how long you've known them. I don't care if they're blood relative. If they are keeping your home in a state of division, you have every right, biblically and spiritually, to distance yourself. And I know that's hard to hear. Some of you were raised to believe that family is everything, no matter what. But I want to challenge you with something even deeper. Family without peace is not a blessing, it's a burden. If your spirit is being damaged by constant division, then God is not asking you to keep sacrificing your health, your sanity, and your joy to preserve appearances. He is calling you to walk in wisdom. You've earned your peace. You've lived long enough to know the damage that division can do. It breaks hearts. It ruins holidays. It puts parents and children at odds. It makes forgiveness feel impossible. And the longer you allow a divider to go unchecked, the more they will poison the well. So it's time to set a boundary. It's time to say, I love you, but I will not let you destroy what God is building in this family. It's time to choose peace over proximity. You don't need a crowd. You need unity. You don't need to be right. You need to be whole. And if someone is committed to tearing that apart, then let them go. Pray for them. Love them from a distance. But do not let them rob you of the harmony you've prayed too long to finally experience. Avoid the divider because your family's unity is worth protecting. There's something sacred about old age that most people don't fully appreciate until they get there. It's a season where you're not supposed to carry what you once carried. You've already paid your dues, worked the long hours, raised the family, kept the faith. This should be a time of honor, of rest, of being surrounded by those who truly care. But instead, too many find themselves surrounded by people who don't give, they take. And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about people who see you as a resource, not a relationship. People who only come around when they need something. That's the selfish taker. You know exactly the kind of person I'm talking about. They call when the bills are due. They visit when their fridge is empty. They're full of stories when they're in trouble. But when you need something, suddenly they're too busy. And the saddest part is many of these people are family. Sons, daughters, grandchildren, cousins. They know the right words to say to make you feel obligated. But the truth is, they're not motivated by love. They're motivated by need. Not your need, theirs. You've spent your life giving, and they've gotten used to it. They've come to expect it. And instead of growing into grateful people, they've become entitled. They believe you owe them something simply because you've always helped. But listen carefully. Love is not the same as obligation. You can love someone deeply and still say no. You can care for them and still set boundaries. And in fact, in old age it becomes necessary. Because every time you say yes to a taker out of guilt, you say no to your own peace. Every time you give out of pressure, you lose a piece of your strength. That's not God's will for you. 2 Timothy 3:2 says, For men shall be lovers of their own selves, covetous, boasters, proud.
And it goes on to list a generation of people who live for themselves.
We're living in that time right now, and many of these people don't even realize the damage they're doing. They think they're just surviving. They say things like, you have it, don't you? Or you don't need much, you're retired now. But they don't see the emotional weight of always being the one who gives. They don't see the toll it takes when they come around only to take, not to talk, to request, not to relate. It's not the money that hurts, it's the emptiness of the exchange. Now let me say something you may need to hear, even if it's hard. Just because someone is your blood doesn't mean they're healthy for your soul. You have the right, not just the right, the responsibility to protect what God has given you in this season. That includes your home, your finances, your peace, and your time. You're not here to be someone's emergency fund. You're not here to be someone's emotional doormat. You are here to enjoy the fruit of your faithfulness. Some of you feel torn. You're afraid that if you say no, they'll walk away. But here's the truth. If someone leaves your life because you stop giving them something, and God didn't create you to be someone's personal ATM or emotional crutch. Now, generosity is a blessing. Don't misunderstand me. Giving is a gift when it comes from a place of love and willingness. But when giving becomes constant sacrifice, without appreciation or respect, it turns into something else entirely. It turns into bondage. And bondage is not what you were meant for. Are they walking with you, or are they walking on you? Are they calling to check on your health, or only to check on their next favor? Are they showing up with love, or with a list of needs? You have to be honest, because the longer you ignore the selfish takers, the more they'll drain you. And here's the hard truth. Not everyone you help will be grateful. Not everyone you give to will give back. But that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to be wise. To love, yes, but not to enable. To help, yes, but not to be used. Avoid the selfish taker, because your faithfulness is not theirs to exploit. As the years pass and your body begins to slow down, you start to notice the weight of words, the value of moments, and the lasting impact of the people you allow into your life. That's why there's one kind of person you must be especially cautious about in old age. The bitter soul, the one who refuses to forgive, who clings to past offenses like they are treasures, and who spreads their bitterness into every corner of your life, if you let them. Bitterness is subtle at first. It doesn't always arrive shouting or weeping. Sometimes it comes dressed in silence, cold stares, sharp remarks, long memories of wrongs done decades ago. These are people who have decided to live in the pain of yesterday. They don't want healing. They revive old arguments. And worst of all, they have no intention of letting go. Every gathering becomes a reminder of who did what and when. Every conversation becomes a platform to relive offenses. And if you're not careful, you'll begin to carry their bitterness like it's your own. Hebrews 12:15 warns us clearly. Licking diligently, lest any man fail of the grace of God, lest any root of bitter springing up trouble through them. And it doesn't just destroy the person holding on to it. It defiles many. Bitterness is infectious. You might start out full of joy, but after enough time with a bitter soul, your light begins to dim. Your voice loses its warmth. Your heart becomes guarded. You stop trusting. You stop hoping. You stop believing the best about others. Some of you know exactly what I'm talking about. You have someone in your life who keeps rehearsing the same pain over and over again. Maybe it's an old betrayal. Maybe it's a family feud. Maybe it's something from childhood that was never addressed. But now, instead of seeking healing, they have built an identity around being hurt. You start avoiding certain conversations. You find yourself drained just being around them. That's not healthy, and it's not godly. Let me say this with clarity and compassion. Forgiveness is not a feeling, it's a decision. It's not saying that what happened was okay. It's saying that I will no longer carry it. I will no longer let it poison my heart. I will no longer let it block my blessings or steal my peace. And if someone refuses to forgive, refuses to move forward, refuses to even try to let go, you have every right to protect yourself from the weight of their bitterness. Because if you don't, you'll start to mirror their mindset. You'll start to lose the softness in your own spirit. Now, I'm not saying cut people off without love. I'm not saying walk away in pride. I'm saying there comes a time when you must protect your joy. You've spent decades learning, growing, suffering, and learning. This season of your life is too valuable to be weighed down by someone who you can pray for them. You can pray for them. You can encourage them, but you cannot carry their bitterness for them. That's a weight only God can lift. I've seen too many people enter their later years with regret, not because of what they learned. They allowed bitterness to camp out in their living room. They allowed bitterness to camp out in their living room. They allowed grudges to guide their family gatherings. They allowed unforgiveness to build walls between people who should be hugging instead of arguing. Don't let that be your story. You have a choice. You can choose peace over poison. You can choose release over resentment. Time is too short. Life is too precious. And your soul is too important to spend your final chapters in someone else's prison. You were made for more than that. You were made to walk in freedom. To finish your race with a clear heart and an open spirit. To finish your race with a clear heart and an open spirit. Avoid the bitter soul, because your peace is not their battleground. There's a certain wisdom that comes with age, a clarity you didn't have in your younger years. You start to recognize what matters and what doesn't. You stop wasting energy on empty pursuits and learn to guard your heart more carefully. But even in that wisdom, there's still a danger that can creep in unnoticed, especially in old age. And that's the presence of people who carry a mocking spirit. People who make light of sacred things, soften your values, who ridicule your convictions as if they're outdated or irrelevant. These people aren't always loud about it. Sometimes their mockery comes wrapped in a joke, a smirk, a sarcastic comment or garnet teenager. They might say things like, "Do you still believe in that? Or you really think prayer changes anything?" They mock your devotion. They roll their eyes at your faith, and they act as if your walk with God is something to be pitied or laughed at. But mockery isn't harmless. It's not just teasing. It's spiritual poison, and if you're not careful, you'll start to let it dull your fire. Psalm 1 tells us plainly, "His sin blessed is the man that walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the way of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful." That last part, the seat of the scornful, that's the danger we're talking about. The scorner is the one who sneers at truth. They don't just ignore it, they despise it. They mock the things of God, and they often do it with a smile. But the scripture says you're blessed if you stay away from that spirit. Because mockery is not neutral, it's corrosive. It eats away at reverence. It weakens resolve. It makes you second guess what you know to be true. In old age, when your steps are slower and your days are more reflective, you don't need people around you who chip away at your faith. You need people who build it.
You need people who honor what you've held on to for a lifetime, not those who dismiss it as superstition or weakness. And make no mistake, mockers can be subtle. They may even be family. A child who once sat beside you in church now scoffs at the Bible. A neighbor who knows you pray every morning but laughs behind your back. A friend who makes light of sin and jokes about things that should break our hearts. And here's what happens if you entertain that spirit for too long. It starts to normalize rebellion. It starts to make sin look small. You become desensitized. You hear the jokes and stop feeling convicted. You start keeping quiet about what you believe to avoid being mocked. And slowly, silently, your light starts to dim. You're not cold, but you're not burning either. And that lukewarm place is where the enemy loves to keep people, especially the elderly. Quiet, compliant, powerless. But that's not what God intended for your later years. He didn't bring you this far so you could finish quietly. He brought you through storms, trials, and decades of battles so that you could still shine. So that your life could be a testimony to the younger generation. So that your words would carry weight and your prayers would shake the gates of hell. You were meant to finish strong, not surrounded by mockers, but by worshipers. People who will stand with you in the spirit, not laugh at you in the flesh. And I know sometimes it feels lonely. The world is changing. People have lost respect for elders. The fear of God isn't what it used to be. And it can feel like you're the only one who still believes. But don't let that mocking spirit silence you. Don't let it steal your voice. Don't let it make you question the sacred truths that carried you through all these years. God is still holy. His word is still true. And your faith is still powerful. You need people around you who will honor this, who will sit with you and talk about the goodness of God, who will pray with you, worship with you, and lift your arms when you're weary. People who respect the journey you've walked and want to learn from it, not tear it down. Surround yourself with those who revere the things of God, because in this season, your peace depends on it. Avoid the mocker because your faith is too precious to be ridiculed.